Hello, everybody. It's Lawrence Watkins, founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers, where we aim to shape minds one speech at a time. We're back with you once again with one of our newest speakers, Brother Mike Lewis. Mike, he's done a lot. He's an author, inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, the millennial and future generation's voice to cultivating potential within purpose. And I'll leave it there. I don't really like to go in too much of a speaker's bio because I want them to tell their story. And that's what we're going to do today. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
Brother Watkins, I am doing phenomenal. I am phenomenal. I'm doing well. Doing well. No complaints.
Excellent. And if I remember correct, did we connect on LinkedIn first? Is that right?
We connected through Facebook, I believe it was.
Oh, it's Facebook. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got you. You reached out to us with regards to being a GBS speaker, and we love what you talked about, and also your brand associated with you. And I think it's very powerful. So let's just jump right into the beginning of the story. So you know, where did Mike Lewis come from? What is he all about?
Well, Mike Lewis came from two amazing parents. Of course, Willis and Barbara Lewis, who you
We'll leave
know.
that part out.
That's right. That's no details needed. But no, I was born and raised right here in Flint, Michigan, where I still reside with my wife. Together we have 8 children.
You had
Believe
8 children.
That's what I said. 8 children. And believe it or not, now I always have to clarify this because when I say 8 children, I get the same response because, in my local area, we're just like the modern day Brady Bunch.
Uh huh.
I always have to share with everyone, that the 8 children came because as a result of a blended family.
Okay.
I was married prior to my wife now for about 10 years, and we had 3 children, and my wife also had 3 children, and we have two together. So combined we have 8. But it's a lot of fun. I tell you, they range from 16 to our youngest is 1 now. So
Wow.
yes, indeed. But I am finished, and
So
so
eight
that's
eight children, none of them are grown either. So they're all yeah.
now they think they are. They
Yeah.
think they are, but they're not yet. But no, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, grew up right here in Flint. Um, I actually went to a high school here, of course, Flint Central. Ran track. Went to Eastern Michigan for education. And my background really is that, believe it or not, I served as a teacher for 6 years. I started teaching at the age of 19, and with some of the principles and mentorship that I had throughout the years, I was one of those young people that took what people taught me and I believed it, and so I just applied it, right? And I got results as a result of doing that. And so when I started teaching at 19, I had no idea, honestly, no idea that just 6 years later I would become a principal of that very school. And I did that for 4 years. And so
Wow.
the
So
journey,
hold on, let's stop there.
okay.
How do you even start teaching at 9 or 19 years old? Like, what does that look like?
You know what? I ask myself that question a lot, really, because uh, again, when I went to Eastern, I originally went to school for no, not elementary. I'm sorry. I went to school for sports medicine. I ran track in high school, and we like to carry on the glory days of high school and say this is what, but so I thought that I was going to go into that field to stay into the sports field, but I realized I got bored really quick, like really really fast. I got bored, and it was around this time, honestly, that I began to pursue my purpose because I knew that there was something greater that I was supposed to be doing. I knew I wasn't a mistake, but I knew that I had something greater that I had to accomplish. And so when I got bored in that field, I began to just explore my options, and or secondary education actually became another choice of mine. And even in the midst of doing that, as I was going to Eastern, I got bored. And so, but it was interesting because around that time, I enjoyed teaching because um, for as long as I can remember, even when I was in high school, I would get a lot of my peers. coming to me for advice. Just everyday advice, for whatever reason, relationship advice, and how to deal with everyday life struggles. And that was exciting for me, because for in some form or fashion, I always had something to give them. Right. And so, but just to see the impact that was made at just, at that age, it was something that really drew me in. And so when I went into secondary education, what I realized is that the majority of those individuals in that field, or in that age group, they had this mentality that they already arrived, right? And so, like I did, right? And so a lot of times you try to penetrate that young group, and because they already have that mentality, it takes a little bit more plowing to get through and really inject some principles into them, so they can be what it is that they set out to become.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized then, I said, okay, I need to be able to make this impact at a foundational level. And so that's what I did. I switched to major again for the third time, and that's when I found my passion in elementary education, and I haven't looked back since. I believe that I'm a teacher by purpose. That's my assignment, but I know I'm never confined to a classroom,
Right.
and I can break that down a little further as we go along. But um, when I came home one weekend, to answer your question. I know I'm going around about, but to answer your question, I came home one weekend, and there was a founder of a school, of a Christian school here in my local community, that found out that I was going to school for elementary education,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he asked me one time if I would be willing to substitute, and of course, that's what I'm going to school for. Let's have some fun. And so I went into the classroom, and believe it or not, I just felt at home. It was so much fun being able to see the faces of those little ones light up as you're talking to them about history, about science, about math, and all those things just really drew me in. And but I would get called just about every other week to come in and substitute. And eventually that part-time gig actually led into a full-time position. So I actually was hired in as a full time teacher prior to me receiving my degree in education. And so, of course, I'm saying, well, this is what I'm going to school for. Let's go for it. And those couple days led to 6 years, and it was never something that I guess set out to accomplish in the form where I saw a major career. I just enjoyed what I did, you know.
Right.
Um, and it's crazy because even now I look back and I've never ever thought in a million years that would lead to me becoming a principal at 25, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So I guess you can say purpose pulled me into that field. And even now, I still teach now, but I teach at a broader scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started. That's how it started.
Right. So you were 25. So obviously you had to be one of the youngest principals within the school district.
From
And
what I know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then since you have 8 kids, I assume that you're much older than 25 now.
I'm 34.
You're 34. Okay, so you're 34. So we're about the same age. I'm 33.
Okay, all right.
Um,
You're doing some big things, brother.
we both are, brother, and that's
Absolutely.
why I love great black speakers to be able to talk to great individuals like yourself. Let's talk about like what that transition was like after you left teaching and left being a principal. And I assume that you get into what you're doing right now from that, or were there other things in between?
Well, I again, even as I was teaching, or as I became a principal, I was able to see the the breakdown of the educational system from both sides. And so you think about what's happening right now, just in all around. And I don't really get into politics that much, but I'm aware. Right. And so one of the things that really hit home with me is the field of education and dealing with young people. And things that are happening right now, it doesn't really shock me because I remember receiving memos from Department of Labor about transitions that was taking place. And no matter how many different ways that I would try to inform the team of what was getting ready to happen, you know, a lot of times when you're fixed in doing things a certain way, it's hard to change.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and so I began to see and explore different options. And that's when public speaking actually came, you know, really became a part of my life. And I just realized that, you know, I can still make an impact in this younger generation, but now I can do it on a much larger scale. And that's why I've always said I'm a teacher, but I'm never confined to a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I work now at our local Job Corps Center, which actually helps young people from ages 16 to 24. And it's amazing because these same individuals are the ones, usually the babies of the babies that I taught, you know. And so I sit in these classrooms sometimes, and I'm like, man, you guys make me feel old. I'm not
Right.
old, you know. So when they tell me they were born 1992 or 2000, I'm like, man, are you
Yeah,
serious? You know?
right.
So, but how that came about was I remember I was actually brought in to speak because someone asked me, you know, how did you become a principal at 25?
Mm-hmm.
And I was brought in to speak at a local organization, and as I began to share my story, I would see the hope that was brought back into the audience. And the more I shared my story, the more I realized, man, there's a lot of people that can use this information,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I believe, like all great speakers, all we do is regurgitate the lessons and the principles that others have taught us, and we present it in the way that's most suitable for our audience,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, when that actually came about with me being able to speak to that organization, it was so much fun. You know, it's just it feels like home. You know, it feels like home to be able to pour into these young people. And so I've been doing that now for, my goodness, whoo, I started speaking publicly right around 20, 25, 26 is when I
Okay.
really started
So
speaking
you're
public.
you're almost 10 years in the game, so maybe
Almost 10 years.
more or less, right?
Yes, sir.
And I like what you said about pouring in information and pouring in inspiration to your audience, to the youngins that
Absolutely.
you serve in Flint, Michigan. I want to talk about you living in Flint and staying committed to Flint here in a second as well.
Okay.
But first, I want to ask you about, what are you pouring into them? What is your message?
Well, here's what I share with everyone. One of the things that's helped me tremendously is I was able to discover what my purpose was at a very young age, and because of that, it eliminated a lot of confusion behind what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, it was right around that time when I decided that I was going to go into elementary education that I began to discover and pursue what my purpose was. And so, what I share with a lot of young people is you have to know why you're here. In spite of your background, in spite of some of the things that you may have gone through, there's a reason that you're here. And so, whatever that reason is, although it becomes your responsibility to discover what that is, you have to be able to look at what you have available to you so that you can draw that out. And so, my assignment, my purpose is to draw or to cultivate potential within the boundaries of purpose. And what that means is I have a responsibility to, in the best way I can describe it, Brother Lawrence, is this. I literally snatch out the mirror that's been injected on the inside of you, and I show you a reflection of you. And then I put that mirror back inside so that you can become everything that you've been designed to be. And so when I'm speaking with the audience, my main goal is to inspire you to discover you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's to discover you, because when you discover you, you no longer need anyone else to validate you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we get with a lot of our young people. They're looking for validation. But when you realize that all the validation you need is already inside of you, now you can make a major impact in the world. And that's the message that I love getting across to them. And it works.
Right. So, what are some of the things and some of the ways that young people are looking for validation?
Well, one of the things is again because they desire to be accepted. You know, you have so many different social media platforms that's telling them to be this way or be that way. You know, for example, my parents, for example, would tell us go to school, get the good grades, so you can get the high paying job.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in today's time, that's not probably the number one option, right? There's ways that you can actually become successful without going that route. And so, what I share with them is this, or to answer your question, ways that you can find validation is again discovering who you are.
Hmm.
Okay, and share something with you that my mentor shared with me because I had that same question: how can I discover who I am? And he said this: what is it that makes you angry? And so I'm looking confused, like what makes me angry? A lot of stuff makes me angry. You know, I'm barely a teenager, you know,
Right.
what makes me angry. He said no. He said there's something that when you see it done to you, or when you see it done to someone else, or it happens to you, you become uniquely angry. And that word right there, uniquely, kind of sparked something in me. He said you become uniquely angry to the point where you feel that you have to do something to fix it.
Hmm.
And so I began exploring that. And the more I dug into that, the more I realized that I can't stand it when people operate below their potential. I
Oh.
can't, right? And so that's how that came about. I said, okay, so it boils me
Hmm.
to hear a person say that they can't do
Hmm.
something. It boils me because you can, right? You can be anything you desire to be. You just have to know how to draw that out. So that's the first thing. What makes you angry?
Hmm.
Identify what makes you angry, and whatever that is, you stay on that. Now, here's the thing that I try to give everyone a heads up about, and that is when you begin to discover what you're here for, you're going to have what I call the Smiths that come out, and
The Smiths, what's that?
Smiths. The Smiths are.
The Smiths.
I do a training on basically based on the concept of the Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding this, that you are your own Neo,
Hmm.
right? And you're searching for a Morpheus that's going to present you with a red pill or a blue pill.
Hmm.
Now, the choice is up to you which pill you're going to follow. And you know what happens if you take the red pill, what happens if you take the blue pill. Now, here's what's interesting. The more Neo began to discover who he was, the more the Smiths began to come out and try to prevent him from becoming who he was supposed to be.
Hmm.
Now, here what was this is what was interesting about that is the Smiths can morph or transform or metamorph into people that look very familiar to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of times those very people that become Smiths in your life as you begin to pursue your purpose is family and friends.
That's true.
So you have to be okay with letting people go.
Hmm.
Because if you're going to another level, you cannot go to this level with the same level of thinking that you had when you were here.
Hmm.
And a lot of times your associations is what's keeping you between that gap. And so you have to cut the umbilical cord of those people that you confide in. And I'm not saying don't speak to them. You know, I'm not saying don't have a relationship with them. But as you begin to pursue your purpose, then you have to understand that everybody's not going to go there with you.
Hmm.
You know, mom and dad they have a very major role to play, but even mom and dad may not know who you really are,
Hmm.
right? And when you walk around and you live with that confidence and that boldness, it's not arrogance, but it's boldness because you know who you are. Then again, that further expands your opportunity to not be validated,
Right.
right?
Yeah, no, that's very interesting because I think about my journey starting Great Black Speakers,
Mm.
and my family was trying to be supportive, and I guess they weren't on some level, but they really didn't understand why I was turning down these high-paying engineering jobs to venture out to start my own company. I didn't even know what company I was going to start at this time either. I
Wow.
just knew I was going to go work with my brother and help him grow his professional speaking business. And out of that, that's how a Great Black Speakers came about.
Wow.
And I just think about that in terms of like the Smiths, the people who were close to me who didn't necessarily understand what I was trying to do. Not really supporting my decision at the time. And of course, they eventually came around. And I don't want it to ever sound like I don't have a supportive family, because I
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, but just in this particular instance, just through not understanding completely who I was as a person and what I valued, they were trying to lead me down a path that wasn't really correct for me.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I can definitely see that, and I can see what you talked about. I never thought about it this way in terms of what makes me uniquely angry. I've
Mm,
never really heard that put that way before. And for me, given the, I guess, very logical type of person that I am, analytical person, it's incompetence, right? So yeah,
wow.
incompetence makes me extremely angry,
I
whether
see.
it's within myself or whether it's within someone else. That is the one thing that kind of sets me off, and I can't really stand.
Wow.
So even this conversation, I'm doing a little bit of soul searching in terms of how can I apply Mike's lessons in terms of his framework to me, and yeah, I can definitely see how this would be very beneficial for any youth, and not even just youth, anyone who is really still trying to figure out how to live a better life, how to live a life of purpose, how they can glean much knowledge and expertise from you and what it is that you speak about.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. It's that's what it's all about.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that helps me tremendously, in addition to helping our young people understand that they have a purpose, is to understand their responsibility as a leader. I believe everyone has leadership capabilities, but it has to be cultivated.
Right.
Because that will be the other, I guess, market or the niche that I like to really hit hard on is leadership. Um, Someone shared this with me. Another mentor of mine shared this with me. He said, leadership has nothing to do with position or title.
Mm.
Now, that messed me up completely, because I was led to believe that when you have that title as a leader, you get to dictate to people what they do,
Mhm.
right? And if they don't do what you tell them to do, off with their head. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when he shared that with me, I had to, like you said, do some soul searching, and I had to reevaluate the relationships that I was having as a result of manipulating with
Mhm.
a title, and the results I was having as a result of influencing with my responsibility as a
Mhm.
leader. And so what happens was I begin to understand now that leadership is not about how many people follow you. Leadership then becomes about how many people follow the people that you have influenced
Mhm.
at some point in your life. And I realize now more than ever that there's a lot of young people that I've had the opportunity to influence. And now I'm seeing how they are influencing their little brothers, their little sisters, right? Their little nieces and nephews. And that's where I get that satisfaction and that joy to just keep going. Because it's tough sometimes.
Mhm.
It really is, because you want it so bad for other people to have a glimpse of the joy that you experience in pursuing and living your purpose. You want them to experience that. And so to be able to see that joy, it's very liberating, but at the same time, it becomes very frustrating when you realize, you come on, you got to get this, you got
Right.
to get this. A gentleman told me this a long time ago, and I never forgot this. He said, "You do not have 1,000 years to get it right."
Mm. Mhm.
Right? You do not have 1,000 years to get it right. And he said, there is a such thing as too late.
Mhm.
And so I took that to heart. I took that to heart. These young people that we are reaching out to right now, they're hurting.
Mm.
They are hurting. They're hurting, but at the same time, Brother Watkins, they are hungry.
Mm.
That's one thing that no one can convince me of. In spite of what statistics may ring, we have a generation that's hungry to know,
Mm.
and they're looking for individuals like yourself
Mhm.
that will pour into them and say, "Hey, you can do this. It doesn't matter what so and so said. It doesn't matter what happened to you. Listen, you can make it." And I tell you, it is so. It's just it's freedom.
Yeah.
It's freedom.
And I love it, right? And I think it's so important to be able to educate and connect with young people. And I'm listening to what you have to say, and I think something that is truly a gift is that ability to connect with
Mm.
the younger generation. So, given myself, that's something that I've always had a problem with doing is, how do I connect with someone who may learn something from me, but they might be 13, 14, 15 years old. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I'm an old soul. So I'm 34. Excuse me, I'm 33 going on 50, right?
So they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm 33 going on 50. And I want to know from you is for those people out there, counselors, principals, teachers, that type of thing, just people in the community who want to connect with young people.
Mhm.
What is your strategy on connecting and sharing your message with these young people out here?
I'm an open book.
Hmm.
That's is I believe we overcomplicate it, right? I'm an open book. I'm very transparent with these young people. I let them know that I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but also I wasn't born neglected either,
Hmm.
right? And so there's some areas that I may not be able to relate to you in. However, I know where you are right now,
Hmm.
right? And so I share my story. You know, what they see is a result of having to go through the fire.
Hmm.
you know, and so because of that, I share the fire. I share where I got burnt. I share the pain. I share the disappointments. I share the frustrations. And when I can open that life up to them and let them know, hey, listen, there's no wall here.
Hmm.
There's no wall here, and you can trust me, right? And as we know in business, people do business with you that they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And so the very first thing that I make it a priority to do is to establish a level of trust, a high level of trust. It's amazing because I was sharing with my students today. We were discussing networking, and one of the things that I shared with them is one of the very first things I do when I'm meeting a new individual is I will find a reason to compliment them.
Hmm.
Right? I will find a reason. What they say, well, why would you do that? I said, because number one, most people are not used to receiving compliments.
Right.
Right? And so when you compliment someone, it's just human nature to be able to rebuttal, if you will, that statement and say, well, man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Right? And so now a door has slightly been cracked open to spark a conversation. Now I want to let you know that I'm genuinely interested in you.
Mm.
Right? And so when I'm going to speak, my audience needs to know that I'm not there for a paycheck.
Right.
Right? They need to know that that's not why I'm here. I'm here because on the inside of you, I see something that the world needs. You have a solution on the inside of you to a problem that exists right now.
Hmm.
And it becomes my responsibility to at least make you aware of that so the world does not miss out. So
Yeah.
now in addition to being transparent as an individual, now I express to you your importance.
Mm.
I need you. They're not used to that.
Skill. That's a skill because I think about in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, when I try to connect with different students and different young people who I may cross paths with. A lot of times I feel like there's nothing in common for us to talk about, right?
Mm,
And it's so funny because I was only in their shoes 16, 16, 17 years ago.
yeah.
Often wonder to myself, like, what happened? Like, when did that gap start to really get there? And I'm not old by any measure. Well, compared to them, I guess I'm old, but uh, yeah, yeah. So no, I definitely like that what you just said in terms of your strategy in terms of connecting, in terms of complimenting and being an open book and establishing that trust.
Mhm.
And do you find that a lot of people within the school system, a lot of people in Flint and other places you speak, have a similar type of issue or a similar type of problem?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I just did a training for the staff over at the Job Corps Center. And one of the very first things I shared with them is this. I said, unfortunately, you are trained by a system that's fixated on the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other side of that, these young people know that you see them as a number. This is why when you ask them to do something very simple, they rebuttal and refuse. Because to them, you're just, or to them, you're just another number, right? So I said this. I said, once you begin to identify the pain that they're experiencing and let them know, I see your pain. And instead of pouring salt on that wound, take some oil out and let them know, hey, you have someone here that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you're struggling right now, but let's deal with why you're here in the first place. And then give them open door access. Like there's not a student there that has to even reconsider or think that they can approach me. You know, now it drives a lot of other adults upset. It
why
does,
why did they get upset?
because they refuse to have that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They refuse to have the relationship. And so what I shared with them was this. I said, in order for you to be able to make an impact in this generation, you have to expose your life. Stop being so secretive. Right? I mean, because you're a human being just like them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have an age difference, but you're a human being just like them. Now, here's one thing that I believe a lot of us as adults have a tendency to deny. I can speak for me. I have a tendency at times to deny that our young people don't go through things like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I have a tendency sometimes to be a little harder on them than I probably would be on myself.
Right.
Right. But on the other side of that, once I snap out of that, I say, okay, you can get through this thing just like anybody else. Yes, you had to see, and this is real life.
Mm-hmm.
You had to see your brother get shot,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never had to experience that. However, I can point you in the direction of someone that can help you through it because I know they have.
Right.
So it's about building that relationship and letting them see that you have people that really want to see you make it. And unfortunately, it's hard for them to see it, right? Because a lot of adults don't want to let that wall down because they don't want to expose the flaw.
Right.
But the young people need to see the flaw so they can get over theirs. So it's a struggle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, it is because they a lot of adults just those individuals that the young people, for example, you still have a lot of them that say, you know what, I do this on my own. I don't need any help.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you can't save them all, right? That's probably one of the hardest things that I have to deal with is to see a young man or a young woman decide to continue the path of error that they go down, and then all of a sudden you get noticed that they're no longer here. That's tough. It's tough.
And you were born and raised in Flint, is that correct?
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
still live in Flint, right?
I'm still here.
What made you stay in Flint?
Um, Nothing in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, nothing in particular. Well, let me say this. I don't want to say it like that. If there's anything that made me stay here, I would say family.
Mm-hmm.
I would say family. Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of hurt here. I've
Yeah,
always
I mean that's all you hear on the news nowadays is Flint,
Woo!
water, and
You,
Michigan and politics and all of that stuff. So
it's amazing. It really is. It's amazing because even with the situation with the water, which is not fixed, by the way.
yeah,
Um,
uh-huh.
yeah, but I've always said this. Media did what they do,
Mm-hmm.
right? They share enough to make you aware, but they pacify to create lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all media, right? It's not all media, but it still exists. Now, one of the things that I've always said, and I believe this with everything in me, and that is the city of Flint is a diamond mine. It's a diamond mine. There's so much potential here because in order to live in an environment where you can't drink the water, you have to have some tough skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, even now, although they say it's fixed, even in our household, we still don't bathe our children with the water.
Wow.
Right now, here's what's interesting about that. Thankfully, my home never had to experience the discoloration and the foul smell of the water,
Mm-hmm.
but we're aware of what could be flowing through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in spite of the fact that the water may be clear, we knew the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, we made a decision that we're not going to do it.
Right.
Right now, I can't honestly say that I'll be here for years and years to come, but I will always have a place here because we have a lot of young people here. We have a lot of people here that's hurting. Right, we have a lot of people here that want solutions, and I believe that God has placed me here to carry out an assignment at this time, and I'm gonna do what He told me to do.
I heard that, and I believe it too.
Absolutely, I
Even
appreciate that.
on this short conversation, I was given some introspective information for myself in terms of what I need to review and what I need to do to, make me a better person and make me be able to connect with a multitude of people instead of just the business people that I speak to on a day in and day out basis. So on this note, I want to get out of here talking about your book
Okay.
and the name of your book and just shortly what is it about.
Okay. The name of the book actually is Cultivating Potential Within
Okay.
Purpose. And it's honestly a work of God for me to actually have that book. And I mean that because Brother Watkins, I'm gonna tell you this, and I don't say this I don't say this with embarrassment. Um I never ever created an outline for that book.
Okay.
Even to this day, I do not have an outline for that book. um I didn't have a desire to write the book, right? But I knew that I would have to write one. I heard specifically that I would write, but I had no idea to what extent. And so, like, literally, this is how that came about. I was sitting on the couch and I said, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then give me the words to write. And I said it just like that. Now, this may sound weird to some people, but this is how it happened. This is my story. And so I'm sitting there with my laptop and it just began to flow. It just began to flow. And it's really a book of principles that I've applied in my life that has gotten me the small amount of success that I have had. That's allowed me to have the relationships and develop the relationships that I've had. And so what it's about is how to first and foremost be aware of the truth that you have a purpose and that your purpose can't come from man. Like, I can't tell you what your purpose is. The purpose of any product must come from the manufacturer. Now, it's not a book that forces religion on people, but I do talk about God. Right? I don't sugarcoat that because I know what's worked for me. And so, but it's a book about redirecting you to the source from which you came so you can discover who you really are. And then once you discover who you are, then we dig into different principles like character. We talk about perseverance. We talk about boldness. And I would say boldness, that chapter on boldness has to be one of my favorite
Okay.
because again, with a family of 8, one thing that is one thing that is not lacking in this home is Disney movies, for example, or just
Right.
just cartoons, right? And so that chapter in itself came as a result of sitting down with my family and I was watching Lion King.
Mm.
And as many times as I've watched that movie, you, you know, I think it came out when I was 14, right? Something
Yeah.
like that. But the things that jumped out, the principles that jumped out in that movie, I'd never seen before. And
Uh-huh.
so it just began to hit me. Leadership lessons taken from the Lion King. and boldness just stood out, right? And so it talks about how once you discover what your purpose is, without the validation of man to approve it,
Mhm.
right? Now you can walk in boldness. You can walk with your head held high, right? You no longer have to slump expecting someone to approve you because now you know who you are. You know who you are. You don't need someone to say, "Hey, look, that's not you." You
Right.
know who you are, right? And so but that's what the book is about. It's really about how to maximize your potential, and it's called cultivating potential within the boundary of purpose because I believe that because each and every one of us have a specific assignment, we have a specific purpose. For me to do what you do would be illegal. I can't do it. Right? I'm outside.
A lot of people have tried.
Yes, indeed, and they probably frustrated to this day. But it's one of those things where I'm outside of my lane,
Hmm.
right? And so purpose has boundaries. It
Yeah.
does. It has boundaries. Although the sky's the limit, your purpose has boundaries. And so if you're trying to impede in another man's purpose, you're going to be frustrated. And
Right.
so I show you how to color within the lines
Yeah.
of that boundary,
I
right?
love it.
That's what
Yeah.
it's about. That's
And,
what it's
and the same goes for me too, where, um, you know, I always wanted to be the great keynote speaker, or the great speaker who gave this awesome training presentation, in front of a live audience, or just wanted to be like my brother Boyce, or to be like said like a Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, or
absolutely.
Hughley, who's a very funny comedian who we've worked with in the past, right? Who we currently
Absolutely.
work with as well. But I think life became a lot more or a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable when I started to color within the lines and stay in my lane in terms of what I'm great at, instead of trying to be something that I necessarily wasn't, nor really had the complete desire to be.
Mm,
I was just trying to be that because that's what I thought I had to be, since I own Great Black Speakers, was to
wow.
be this excellent speaker who presented in front of thousands of people. But as I've grown older, I know that that's not necessarily who I am.
Mhm.
Day in and day out. And if I focus on creating systems and creating business development and doing all this other stuff that I'm actually really great at,
Wow.
life becomes a lot better. So no, I love that.
Absolutely. And so much freedom there.
Hmm.
It's so much freedom. You don't lose sleep at night because you realize, you lived every waking moment as Lawrence.
Right.
you know? And so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. So we'll end there. So name of the book one more time, please.
Cultivating potential within purpose.
Cultivating potential within
Releasing your
purpose.
assignment to impact generations.
Excellent. So Mike, thanks for all that you've shared with us today in regards to passion and purpose, and how to connect with the youth on a much deeper level as well. If you'd like to book Michael Lewis, so he goes by Mike, so Mike Lewis, or any of our other speakers on Great Black Speakers, head over to www.greatblackspeakers.com. We have easy search. Actually, it's going to be easier. Probably by the time you watch this video, we'll have our new feature out where you'll be able to search on any page and do a deep dive search within the site on numerous different, speaker name, speaker topic, their passion, their purposes, all of that stuff. So that'll be rolling out here soon. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll be speaking again soon.
Brother Watkins, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm absolutely honored to be connected with you in your purpose and Great Black Speakers, and let's change the world.
That's what I'm talking about. We're happy to have you. So,
Thank you,
all right.
sir.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and talk to you again at a later point in time. Bye bye.